Yeah. Okay, the Jentry Podcast. I know that you will be loving it. We here to break it down so that you start to understand your local government. Who are the leaders? Time to get active, do something about it. Dealing with jobs, the workforce, and affordable housing. Motivate and inspire. Elevate, take it higher. For the next generation. Knowledge is power for your community. Giving you the info that you really need. Time to make a change and a difference. Tune in, don't miss it. It's the Jentry. The Jentry Podcast. The Jentry Podcast. Making a change, switching it up.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jentry Podcast. I don't say this too often, but we have a legend in the building today. William Johnson is the city manager of Emporia, Virginia, but he brings over 2 decades worth of experience to the table, and it's impressive. I can't wait to get into his backgrounds. Let's just say he's been from Virginia to Georgia, back to Georgia again, and he has done so much. He's held leadership on the National Forum of Black Public Administrators, excuse me.
It's all right.
So I just want to let you guys know him. William, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. We made it through another week. It was a tough week for us here in Emporia. We had to revamp our budget for FY26. We just finished doing that, so that message will go to Mayor and Council today by 12 noon, and it's time for the weekend.
I could definitely hear that. It is time for the weekend. But before we get too far off, I gotta know, Emporia is a great place to be. What is the special sauce, and why is that community so important to you?
You know, when I took the job back in September of 2018, when I took my first tour, I'm like, wow, all this traffic between Interstate 95 and Route 58. And if you're going anywhere on 95, north and southbound, you're coming through Emporia. From Boston all the way down to Florida, you're going to pass through here. And at this intersection, every day, there's 60,000 cars that come through here. And then I believe in the summer, we haven't did this with Virginia Department of Transportation, but I believe that number goes up during the summer because there's a truck stop there. There are 7 hotels. There are restaurants right there. One restaurant has expanded from one side of the interstate to the other side. That's El Ranchero. And we have the support for us. We have the support of Mayor and Council and believing that what we're doing. And we've had some success. We have a long ways to go. But the most important thing, our location, we call it the Crossroads to everywhere. It's just the marketing. We have to sell it. We have to go out and sell it. And in any community, if you don't let people know where you are and you don't sell your assets, they're going to pass you by. And we are staying on top of it every day. Even sometimes when I travel, my wife is like, will you stop? This is not your city. Leave it alone. But you gotta borrow from other communities because you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
The Crossroads to everywhere. Now, if that's not a moniker, I don't know what is. And you also stated that you had the support of the council and mayor. And I know, speaking to a ton of city managers, that is worth its weight in gold. And I know there are other city managers kind of wish they had that support, but I know you earned that support with your background. So if you can kind of get into that over 2 decades in the public sector, I'd love to.
And actually, it's over 3 decades. I'm right at I think I'm right at 33 years, and I keep saying I got 4 more. I might do 5 or 6. It depends. But let me make sure everybody understands this though. Yes, I have the support of Mayor and Council, but as all managers and county administrators and town managers understand, you're really only as good as your last closed session, because that can change with your last closed session. Like for me, 4 yes votes versus 4 no votes. But knock on wood, we have been successful, and they like what we're doing. We're carrying out their goals and objectives. And, there's some times when we don't agree, but for the most part, we have good synergy. We use our Economic Development Authority. We use our Housing and Redevelopment Authority as well. So we have some synergy. And like I said, because of where we sit, on the 58 corridor, it goes from I-85, which is all the way down to Mecklenburg County. It then goes all the way down to Suffolk, Virginia, and Virginia Beach, the Tidewater corridor. So it's a lot of traffic, a lot of truck traffic. We have a truck stop here every night, other than Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. It's pretty much there's 300 trucks parked there every night. So, and we are, we've been blessed. We got a Starbucks in the heat of COVID. We lost Applebee's in the heat of COVID. However, just back in March of this year, we announced that one of the boiler bag chains, Twisted Crab, is going to take over that location. They should open in October. We have a Chick-fil-A that's opened last December of 24. We just announced last month, or earlier this month, Waffle House is coming. And then one of our great success stories is Rose's Gaming Emporium. It's similar to a casino, but it's Gaming Emporium. They are now owned by Churchill Downs. So that transition took place in the middle of them building their facility here. So we earn about $800,000, $700,000 in gaming revenue. So every dollar wagered, we get 0.25 cents for the gaming machines. Plus, we got our real estate taxes and our machinery and tool taxes. But that created 150 jobs here. So now all of that property surrounding Rosie's is highly sought after. And then also we bought 8 acres right in the heart of 58 and 95. So that's where we put Chick-fil-A. That's where Waffle House is going. So now we have about 4.5 acres left to sell. And we are pushing hard. We need a steakhouse. We're taking care of the seafood. We need a steakhouse. We still need some retail. We do have Bill's department store, which is similar to, like a TJ Maxx, Kohl's, but we need more of that because the citizens are pushing for that. But the most important thing for us to sell, because we got urban developers looking at our community, all they see is 6,000 rooftops. And what we try to explain to them is that we are the hub. We have Walmart. We have Food Lion. We have Cracker Barrel. We have all those things. We have maybe now Roses and a few other things coming. But none of those businesses survive off 6,000 people. So, and in the rural community, we look at drive time. And if you go an hour from here, either way, east, west, north, and south, there's about 400,000 people that can get here in an hour. Convincing them to understand that, like we were trying to get a movie theater, bowling alley, we're still trying to do those things for recreation activities, things for our youth. We're on the back end of a sports complex coming called Station 67. And we just need to push the developer a little bit harder to get them going. But it's all private money. So, when the city's not investing, you can push hard, but you can only push so hard because you don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. And we are selling 7 acres, but, it's just timing. We have a first-time home buyers program. I'm happy to say that 2 city employees went through the program, purchased their own home, and when you see those employees, you can see the difference between when they weren't homeowners to now that they're homeowners. They have a little extra pep in their step, and I think they actually work a little harder for the city. So it's paid off, but it goes to show that regardless where you are and what you're doing, you can own a home. And that's one of the first things that Marion Council changed as a part of their strategic goal, is because the city right now is 60% rental. So you want to change that. And you can own a home. Outside Housing and Community Development has moved to the city. They have a satellite office here. They've been a big reason for that change. Matter of fact, they're going to be building 28 workforce townhouses in our Belfield Historic District. Not far from there, on Baker Street, there's an old Pear Furniture store. There will be built 8 market rate townhouses as well. As a matter of fact, now I'm talking about Baker Street. If you ever visit our growing metropolis, is what I call Emporia, a growing metropolis. We have probably one of the best fresh meat markets up and down 95. It's called Spivey's. So, and I'm a ham biscuit guy, so they make those on the morning. So sometimes I sneak over and grab some ham biscuits. But we have a historic district. We have our own sports complex that's run by Emporia Greensville Sports Authority. We have softball fields. We're looking to expand that, bring more softball tournaments here, but we need to do some upgrading. But it's working right now. Also, we received a Kaboom grant back in 2023, and that's where the community builds the playground. Along with that, we repaved the walking track. And we also got a national fitness campaign. So we now have $160,000 outdoor fitness studio adjacent to the Kaboom playground. So while the children are playing, the parents can actually work out outside. So, and we're working on finalizing Frisbee golf at the same place. So, and then that trail leads from right behind me here. You can walk that trail all the way through and end up at our sports at the EGRE Park. So we want to make sure we take care of our citizens, not only physically, but mentally, because, that mental health is big for everybody now. So we now have some outlets, and we got a lot of other projects that we're working on that hopefully we'll bring them to fruition real soon.
Yeah, you guys are doing a lot, and I've been able to research and see some of the successes that you have. But even hearing some of those micro wins, you talked about the people that work at the city and our homeowners and how they have an additional pep in their step. They have another thing that you said was skin in the game. They have skin in the game in the community, and it does make people work harder. And I know that as you guys continue to bring that 60% rental down, that's more people that are having that stake in the community. So I love that strategic goal, and I think that is something that will just continue to make the community strong and resilient. But I have to take a step back. So I know you graduated with a degree in accounting. I believe you have your MBA.
Yes.
You've been in the private sector. You've been in Petersburg. You've been in College Park, and you've been College Park twice. You've been,
You haven't forgotten that.
yeah, I didn't forget. And now you're in Emporia. When you were growing up, did you know you always wanted to be in municipal government? What was it? What was that like?
Well, first of all, as growing up as a kid out of Richmond, Virginia, I played Little League football. Then I played basketball, and he's still one of my favorites. I watched Magic Johnson. You know, I'm like, wow, I want to be the next Magic Johnson. I wasn't 6'8". I'm only 5'11". However, what athletics taught me was discipline. I grew up in the boys club, and now it's called the Boys and Girls Club. But you get the foundation of you got to go, and my parents stressed, you got to go to school. You got to get your lesson. But I was blessed in high school, middle school, high school, and not bragging or not being arrogant, but I've always won. You know, in Little League, we won city championship basketball. In high school, we won the Virginia High School League. At Hampton University, the greatest university there would be. We won the CIAA championship. So all of that, in each of those times, for some reason, I was a captain, team captain. So, but no, in high school, and I tell this story all the time, Miss Burnett was my accounting teacher. You know, I took her class, and then one day, me and my best friends, Darryl Brown, we called him Duke, we were taking a test, and she swore we were cheating. So we had to dump our desks, and there was nothing on our desk. But she apologized in front of the class. That's what led me to major in accounting at Hampton. However, when I was coming out of school, I said, well, I'm going to be a CFO for Xerox, IBM, one of those Fortune 500 companies. That didn't pan out. When I graduated from Hampton, I did have a job. I went to La Habra, California, and was a unit director for a boys club. That connection, I grew up in the boys club. So a couple of summers, I actually worked at the boys club in Richmond. So I went to California, you know, man, a young kid, 21 years old, not making a whole lot of money, all the way in California. I had one of my teammates out there in Washington who lived about an hour away. We hung out a few times, but I got homesick. So I came back home, and I took a job as a tax collector for the Virginia Department of Taxation. Never wish that job on anybody. They going to blow the building up. They going to beat me up and all that. So Louisiana County had a position for Director of Finance. And a good friend of mine said, Johnson, man, that job is yours. You need to apply for it. But at the very end, it said CPA preferred. I took the exam. I got all 67. You got to get a 70. I said, I'm not taking that test anymore. But I applied and was blessed to get the job. I worked for a great county administrator, Bill Porter. He gave me a chance. And what I didn't realize at the time, that I ended up being the first black finance director in Louisiana County. Not only that, when I went to work there, I was the only black in the courthouse. So imagine a young man, you know, first local government job, managing the finances, and, you know, also was the accounts payable person, also did payroll, and was the IT sort of guy, did the backup for the AS400. But from there, and Bill taught me a lot. And Bill said, you know, William, if you keep working at this, and you work for me, I'm going to make sure you move up in the organization. However, I left there after 18 months. I went to New Kent County based on a recommendation from the auditing firm of Robinson Farmer Cox. They were looking for director of finance. So I went to New Kent, you know, blessed again with a great county administrator, and Joe Emerson. As a matter of fact, Joe taught me a lot that's when I first learned about economic development. We were doing a deal with Henrico County. They were building a jail in New Kent County for Henrico County, but you had to negotiate. So he allowed me to tag along for the negotiations. Then Colonial Downs came to town. He allowed me to tag along for that. So I learned a lot. And Joe said the same thing, William, I'll help you do anything you want to do. And matter of fact, both Bill and Joe and I, we're still friends to this day. But I left New Kent, went to Prince George County. emphasize Virginia. When you say Prince George County, everybody thinking PG County, Maryland. And I know that's your hometown, and my wife lives there too. I had to throw that plug in there. But I went over there. I was the first black director of finance in Prince George County. John Kynes, gave me another opportunity. He promoted me to deputy county administrator / finance director. So I became the first black deputy county administrator in Prince George County. And then when Mr. Kynes announced his retirement, he told the board of supervisors, Mr. Johnson should be your next county administrator. However, Mr. Nathaniel, I'll never forget it. He was the only black on the board. And he said, well, no, we need to do an executive search. So after about 6 months, I was appointed county administrator. So I had 3 firsts in Prince George County, Virginia. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say, doors can be open. Sometimes it's a blessing being in the right time, right place at the right time, or meeting the right people. And for me, I think it was a combination of the two. I did that. Matter of fact, I got my master's degree in business administration while I was in Prince George County. I attended the Senior Executive Institute in Charlottesville, where I had the opportunity to meet Lane Ramsey, former county administrator of Chesapeake County, George Waters, at that time was the city manager of Hampton, Virginia, later became the mayor. I met Dr. Calvin Jameson at that time, who was the city manager for the city of Richmond, Virginia, which is my hometown. So my vacancy came up for a deputy city manager in Richmond. I said, wow, wouldn't it be great to go home and work for my hometown? I applied, I got the job, and ended up working for Calvin James, Dr. Jameson. And I did that for 4.5 years. And probably would have been there longer. The former mayor, the former governor of Virginia, Doug Wilder, and for the mayor for the city of Richmond. And he was promoting the change in the form of government from council manager to strong mayor. So he won. And I remember like it was yesterday, on the night he won, he said, if you work in the Calvin James administration, you need to find another job. So January comes and I was there, and I could see the writing on the wall that I wasn't going to be a part of his executive team. So I started applying for jobs, and I got a job in King George County, Virginia. I took that job, but at the same time, I had applied for the city manager's job in College Park, Georgia. So about 45 days into the King George job, I got a call to interview for College Park. I did a video interview. First time I had done that, and then they flew me down, and I got the job. But here's a funny story. When I went in and told the county administrator for King George County I was leaving, I gave him 30 days notice. He said, no, you don't need 30 days. You can pack your stuff up right now, and you can leave. You don't want to be here? I said, okay, I can respect that. I understand that. I said, but you got to look at it. Rural King George, Virginia. Now, this was in 2005. I said, rural King George, metropolitan Atlanta, College Park, home of the world's busiest airport. So I took the job, went down there, and which blew me out of the water once I found out the city was 70% black, and I was the first black city manager in College Park. So I did that for 2 years, and some personal things happened with my family, and I got homesick, so I came back home to Virginia. I was a deputy county administrator in Chesterfield County for 18 months. And then after that, the rest of his soul, Mr. Charles Phillips, at that time was still on the city council, he called and said, hey, Johnson, we can't find anybody. I just want to let you know, if you want to come back, you still have to apply and go through the process. So I reapplied, got the job, moved back to College Park. One of the things the reason I went back, because there were some things we had started that I wanted to see through and get done. So I went back. After some of those things started, I came back home. I went to Petersburg as city manager. July of 2011. I stayed there. I was terminated. I'm not ashamed to say it. I was terminated in March of 2016. The only thing I'll say about that, I just didn't like the way I was terminated. I never had a meeting face-to-face with Marion City Council. I was terminated over the phone. And while I was on the phone, at that time I had breaking news on my phone. And while I was talking to the mayor, you get a beep, beep, beep. So I looked at it, and there was the breaking news on Channel 12 that I had been terminated. But that's okay, because God is good. I left. I was out of local government for about 18 months. I had a small consulting firm that I did on my own. I had a couple of jobs, but, not having a lot of experience. And then one of the things that I learned about that is there are times in life where there are people you interact with, serve with, and you think when you're in need, not asking for a handout, but in need, they will reach out. I found out some of those things don't happen. I folded up my consulting business. A buddy of mine always say, hey man, you like to talk a lot of trash. You should come sell some cars. So I interviewed, got the job. I sold cars at Patrick Kier for about a year. The vibe wasn't there. I didn't like the hours, because at the end of the month you had to work 9 to 9. Then on Saturdays you work 9 to 6, and some Saturdays you might get 2 customers, and then from 1 to 6 we trying to sell cars to each other. So that didn't work. So I went to work with my buddy Ronnie over at Chevrolet dealership. And, I liked that because it was more laid back. Yes, you had to wear your corporate shirt every day, but you didn't have to wear slacks. You could dress. And then also you had the flexibility of, if I needed to be off on a Friday, but you came in, Jonathan, to see me and said, you said, hey, I can meet you Sunday. So I had a key. I go in on Sunday. You test drive the car. We do the paperwork. On Monday, turn it over to the finance director, and you're a happy customer. So I did that. And then I went to work for Kenny Jones. So Mr. Jones has passed away, but he owned Prestige Construction, because Kenny would always call me asking about stuff with local government. So one day I said, man, you need to hire me. He said, maybe I will. I guess it was about 3 weeks later, he called me and said, man, let's go to dinner. And he made me an offer. We go back and forth. So I went to work for him as business development for Prestige Construction. So to tell you how funny the world is and how small the world is, actually, what I used to do was look at the websites and sign up. So as construction jobs came available, we would reach out. We actually came here. Let me back up. I called Ed Daly, Dr. Daly, who was the part-time assistant city manager. And Ed and I went way back. He was one of the first guys I met at Virginia Local Government Management Association conference when I was in local government. So we came down, we made our pitch on a piece of property. They were looking at building a new city hall and a new police station. And I'm going to close this circle in a minute. I came down, and about a month later, Dr. Daly calls, hey man, Brian Thor, who was the city manager at the time, I knew Brian. He said, Brian has announced he's leaving. This would be a great spot for you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure, man. Local government, man, I was still feeling a little beat up, and I'm like, I'm not sure. So I didn't apply. The day of it closed, Ed called and said, wait, I didn't see your application. Turn it in. I said, okay, Dr. Daly, I'll do it before 5 o'clock. I turned it in. I came down for the interview. And let me back up, because I want to give Dr. Robert Bob some credit here. He went, when I left Peaceville, they brought his group in to do some work. And I called Dr. Bob and said, look, I need a good reference letter. He said, we have no problem. He wrote a reference letter. So I applied for the job. I got the interview. A week later, I drove down. And at that time, Albee's was open. I met with the mayor. And they made me an offer that day. And I said, no, you got to do better than that. And we were able to work it out. And one, I thank them. That council that hired me at that time, because a lot of people didn't want to touch me. So one, I was blessed that they gave me an opportunity. And when I came, I said, well, you got a lot of background, and, I'm sure people will actually come back. I said, well, here's my commitment. You took a chance on me. I can commit to you. I think I can be here 10 years. So I'm in year 6, and that's why now I count down 4 more. So I came in, and some employees retired, and some employees moved on, but we've been able to assemble a really good team and every department has their own strategic plan. Each year we have, most localities say they're going into a retreat. I said, no, we're going into advance because we're not going backwards. So we do that every year. We meet with council, we update them on the financials, and we've just been able to get some things done. And I'm on a couple of boards and go to some conferences and just try to keep the momentum going, and we have fun. I don't believe in being a stuffed shirt manager, because this job is already tough enough when you're working for the public and you're a public servant. So every year we have some picnic for employees, and then we have a holiday party for the employees, and they get a bonus at the holiday party. So, and the employees plan both of those events. So we just been blessed right now, but it's hard work. We in a rural community, big difference in those bigger urban communities that I've been in, but I like what we have. I like the energy that we have. And, you hit you have a bump in the road, and, we're on our way.
That it sounds like you have a true calling on your life, to the point where you weren't even going to apply and didn't apply, and it shut down, and you had some things that you had to describe to them and work through, and they met you where you were. They're like, hey, we understand, we appreciate that, and even to the negotiation, still going back and forth. But when something is meant for you, it won't pass you, and I truly believe that, and it sounds like you have a true calling to do what you're doing now. So whether I know it's different from maybe some more urban communities, but it seems like it's right where you're supposed to be. And just based on all the things that you guys are doing, you guys are making some big strides down there. You briefly talked about the sports complex. How has that been? How did that come about? And how does kind of a booming industry, sports tourism, how does that kind of play into what you guys are doing?
Well, when you've been in local government as long as I have, and you meet a lot of people, and the leader of that group is Mr. Tommy Davidson. He's out of Richmond. I'm a little older, and we went to high school together, and he called and said, "Hey, man, I want to come down and take a tour." And we took a tour, and I showed him some different sites. And one of the things he talked about was, Richmond and Henrico County and Chesterfield. I mean, they're rocking and rolling in sports tourism. I mean, they're the team, they're the place to be. But on the south side of Virginia, there is no complex right now. He reached out and said, "Hey, I got a proposal for you." He came down and, met with council. But now it's time for him to get going. We started this conversation back, I want to say back in maybe 2021. So now it's time to see some shovels moving and some bricks put up. We'll get through this budget, but I'll have a call with him next week to sort of see if we can light a bigger fire on it and get that project going, because now, the community is saying, "Mr. Johnson, what's going on with the sports complex? You announced it, but the city announced it, and what are you guys doing?" It's time to go, and Mr. Davis understands it, but it's time to go. And the one thing I want to go back to, one of the things that I think helped me too was when I was in Prince George County, rest his soul, Mr. Woody Harris, who was on city council here for 37 years. He knew me from my work in Prince George County, as well as Councilwoman Dale Temple. I met her when I was the finance director and all those things in Prince George County. So they knew who I was. And, like I said, I was blessed. And one of the things I want everybody to understand, especially those who are coming into this profession or want to come in the profession, you got to have tough skin. You got to have that good group around you. He's passed on, but Harry Jones, who's a legend, he was a county executive down in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. And for 2 weeks solid, every day, Harry used to call me. My nickname is Bubba. He said, "Bubba, are you building a brick? Have you put up another brick today?" So after about 3 days, I said, "Hey, what are you talking about?" He said, "Man, that brick is that solid foundation that you have to build around you. So in tough times, you have that foundation that keeps you grounded and keeps you going." So, I thank him for that. And there's a host of other folks that called me during that time. But then my friends from home, they checked on me, they reached out. But God is good, man. That's the most important thing. And you got to put in the work, though. You got to put in the work. It's not easy. Some days I don't do a lot with Facebook because people will tear you down. And sometimes you don't know if they even live in your community. But as I share with staff, that's okay. Let them say that. When you really get concerned is when they come to council meeting and want to talk about things. That's their time. Public comment period is their time. But as long as we keep being transparent and sharing what we're doing and being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and Marion Council is happy, I think we're going to be fine. And we're going to get some other things done. And it's just a good locale to be in right now.
You said something important there about having that foundation and that team around you when things get tough. You need people that understand you, but then you also need people that understand your circumstances and what you're going through. One big part of your resume that I saw and I'm super interested in is the National Forum of Black Public Administrators. How has that been a support to you, and what have you kind of learned from that organization?
Well, before I go there, I'm a member of ICMA, International City County Managers Association, Virginia Municipal League, Virginia Local Government Management Association. I've been on their I'm currently on their executive board. But NFBPA is where I met a lot of folks, all across America. So, and you get an opportunity. I was on their board for 12 years, 12 consecutive years. And, one of the things I learned, sometimes you go to a meeting and, you raise your hand, you ask a couple questions. And I'll never forget it. I was at one of their board meetings, asked a couple questions, and Diana Berry, who used to be the HR director in the city of Oklahoma, after that meeting, she said, "Hey, let's talk." She said, "I think you need to be on the board." So I got appointed to the board. I did that for 12 years, like I said, and it's a group. Everybody on there is Black. They've been in business it's been around for 42 years. And some of the founders are Floyd Johnson, Henry Gardner, so V. Tony Adams, and the good thing about the conference, you have the national conference, but then you have your local chapters. and I'm currently the vice president for the Central Virginia chapter. As a matter of fact, we had the national conference in Richmond in early 2005. But you get to meet, like I say, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You pick the phone up and you put in that subject line NFBPA, and you get a call back. So, matter of fact, we just left San Francisco for the last national conference back in April, and I met a group, economic development group, out of Bowie, Maryland. They've been to town twice, so you got your public service, you got your National Corporate Advisory Council, they have the Mentor program, they have the ELI program. It's just an opportunity to meet people. And whenever you travel on vacation, you come and say, hey, so-and-so, this Johnson. They recommend restaurants for you. You may hang out with them. It gives you that, it's a teamwork. It's almost like my basketball players, my teammates from Hampton, my teammates from high school. There's always that network there. There's always a solid foundation to reach up, but it prepares you for these jobs. And because what's important for me is who's going to sit in these seats as my generation begin to retire. So sorry about that, but that's why I'm still active. I'm not as active on the national level, but I try to make sure I give my time back to the local chapter, because now it's about that next generation of public servants. And are they prepared to sit in these seats?
That's one of the reasons I do what I do, is to connect with the younger generation. I believe, I don't believe, I know the analytics, half of our viewers are in public service in some capacity. The other half are millennials, Gen Z, and even now Gen Alpha. Believe it or not, taking a look at
that's a new one for me.
Yeah. So it is nice to see that their generation, the younger two, Gen Z and Gen A, just seem more civically engaged than even my generation, the millennials were. And that next generation is so important. When you created a legacy for your community, pass that legacy to somebody. And I talk to people all the time, and they have, Plan 2035, Plan XYZ County 2045. And it's like the people that you're talking about and that you're preparing that plan for, maybe fresh out of college, maybe even in middle school. So how are you reaching out to, or how is Emporia reaching out to that next generation of just civically engaged young person, or just young people in general? How, a second question would be, how are you kind of paying it forward? It sounds like you've had a lot of great mentors and people in your corner. How are you paying that forward to the next generation?
Well, one of the things that, before I get to the next generation, one of the things that I have done is I believe in giving folks that I consider green, that may not have as much experience, I believe in giving them a chance. I've done it twice, and actually 3 times, and it's been successful. Someone may not have 10 years of experience or 5, they may have 3. But if they have the people skills, they have the ability to learn, the willingness to learn, and they have that desire. And one of the things I go by is LCC, loyalty, competency, and compassion. If they have those 3, you got to have it every day. You can't bring 2. You can't bring 1. But you got to give them an opportunity. And then for me, I've been in this business for so long, I have the ability to, and the connections to wrap other folks in that profession. For an example, as a planning director, I can wrap other planning directors around and say, hey, this is my person. I need you to reach out to them. And when they call you, I need you to help them. So that's how we've been able to do that. And like the last economic development, she had some great skills, but she didn't have technical skills. We have surrounded her with other economic development directors, and now she's out doing her thing, and we're beginning to see the fruits of that labor. So that's one of the things you do. And then also getting them to spread their wings and join NFBPA and other organizations to where they can learn and become stronger. But one of the things we do here in Emporia is that I try to attend a lot of events over at the school system. They have Real Man Read at the elementary school. Try to make sure I'm visible at different events at the high school, the middle school, and always talking. Last year we had an intern from Virginia State here in Emporia. We're trying to do more of that. But just let them know that whatever you want to be, you can do it. And that's almost, not in a small community like Emporia, but in your major urban community, almost any job that's in the private sector is in the public sector. Engineers, financial analysts. Believe it or not, there are gas analysts that sit down and all they do is sit in a room and manage the gas prices for that day and for that week. So you have attorneys, you have engineers, you have finance directors, budget directors. Although in our community, our finance director is the budget director. But in other communities, you have the budget director, and that's all they do is budget. You have your finance director, accounts payable, IT. So whatever they want to do, you can do it. But I think we got to get to them early. Because one of the things I've been hearing from some of the younger generation is this job is tough. Sometimes the public is tough on you. As a matter of fact, in a couple of weeks, I'm on a panel at VRGMA at our summer conference in Virginia Beach where we're talking about your journey. And there's a gentleman on there who's in the LBGT community. And I'm like, man, when I met you, who cares? As long as you can do your job, it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Puerto Rican, or whatever your sexual preference is. The question is, can you perform and can you get the job done? I think for me, being the first way back in Louisiana County and looking at it now, I would have thought by now it wouldn't matter. But it's still happening in some places, and especially for the females in this profession. But at the end of the day, I think we stay grounded, whether you're Baptist or Muslim or whatever. I think if you allow yourself to be guided by the higher being, which I allow, God to manage my steps and guide my steps, I think we're going to be fine. But you got to put in the work. It's not easy. You got some days, you're here at 7, 8 o'clock, and I know some days in Petersburg and other communities we be working on budgets till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But at the end of the day, for me, it's good to be able to go back, and as I retire, and go back to some of these communities and see the things that while I was there, the administration and the team that we had in those communities, it's good to go back and say, wow, I remember when we did that project. But remember, it's never an I thing, it's a we. Yes, I'm blessed to be the city manager, but there's 120 employees that come to work every day that allow us to do what we do. So that's me in a nutshell. Just glad to be in a number.
I think that's so important, what you stated about giving people the opportunity a little bit ahead of time. I think especially in the public sector, when people are applying. In the private sector, if you hit 3, 4 of the requirements out of 10, you need to go ahead and apply. Like you have a
Exactly.
shot. But sometimes in the public sector, it can be a little more difficult when other people have to sign off on jobs and hiring. So to hear that you're giving people the opportunity a little bit early, and I know I'm not telling you anything that you don't know because you just said it. That's when you gain that loyalty. That's when people learn that competency, and that's when they show the compassion to the actual community, because they know deep down I may have not been ready yet, but William took a chance on me. I don't want to let him down. I've had the public side, but on the private side, do the exact same thing. I give people a little more than they can chew, and it's like, hey, prove me right in this. And I think people often work harder when they know that they weren't quite there, but somebody believed in them, supported them, and not just that, put the people around them. And I think
Exactly.
that is
Yes.
so important to iron sharp. I mean, I know I can tell what your belief system is. As you know, iron sharpens iron. And I think when you allow people to be sharpened by other professionals, they are learning not just the competency, but also just different perspectives on how to look at issues. So I think that is great that you're doing that. And I definitely can appreciate that. I know your staff can appreciate that. And one thing I would also bring up that you stated was legacy, and the legacy that you've left in other communities and passing that legacy down. For Emporia, I know you have 4, maybe even more years. What do you kind of see for the community in 5 to 10 to maybe even 20 years out? And or what is the legacy you want to leave for Emporia?
Well, for me, I just want to leave it stronger, more viable than what it was when I got here. The team that we have now, and some people may leave, some things may change, but we can sit back and say, we made it happen. We have housing, we have retail, we have created jobs. Right now we're in the middle of hopefully we get to finish building a new police station. They're so desperately needed. We need to renovate City Hall. The most important thing is that did the staff grow, and what did they accomplish while we were here? In this administration, while I'm here in the city of Emporia. So I'm not really worried about the legacy, because those things sort of speak for itself. But it's that it was a better place, and we had some fun doing it. And when you ride around now, There's some empty lots. There's some old buildings, some old warehouses. But in another 5 years, hopefully those buildings will be multi-use complexes, a bowling alley, a movie theater, more retail, housing, like I said, new police station, the sports complex, and other things in the community that their lives will be made better. You know, everybody says you want it to be the best place to live, work, and play, but that's true. One of the things we want to try to do is have some of the younger generation come back home and live in Emporia. And be able to find jobs in Emporia. That's the fun part for me, because now we can see it, you can touch it, and we're gonna continue to push for that. And God willing, the creek don't rise, we're gonna get it done.
I believe it. You sold me. You definitely sold me, and I'm excited for people to come back home. And that's one of the big. I don't even say this too often, but when I started my company, my North Star is everybody has the right to work, invest, and retire in their own community.
Yes.
And that's what I truly believe, and that's everything that I do on the professional side, even to this podcast, is to promote. And talk to people that are making that happen, like you are. And I know you're not focused on legacy, but that's a great legacy to have and continue to build a place where people can come home. And I think that is very important. Before we wrap up, is there anything, any wise words you want to leave with our viewers?
Continue to learn, stay true to who you are, stay true to your beliefs, always listen and learn as much as you can, soak it all in, because you never know when you get an opportunity to do something or sit in a seat that you didn't think you was going to sit in. But if you have prepared yourself, you can sit in those seats. And the last thing I'll say about Emporia, we had our second annual Cinco de Mayo back in May, but on Saturday, June 21st, we will have our first ever Juneteenth celebration. And it's called Soul Festival, soul music. So if you live near us, you're not doing anything on that Saturday from 4 p.m. to 10, it's absolutely free music. Now, the vendors are not free, but the music is free. So come on down and visit our community and look at our website. We do have a Facebook page, so we put information out there all the time. So I want to thank you, Jonathan, for this opportunity. But if anybody wants to talk, call me. I'm here to support you, and just continue to grow and continue to learn. And don't be afraid to step out there and take a chance on something.
I think that's a great way to end it. Listen and learn, and be ready for the seat you're not ready for. I think that's a great message, especially to our young viewers, but also to our municipal government leaders. You never know what that next seat is, but what do they say? Stay ready so you never have to get ready.
That's it. And I'll say this. I always say to my wife, there's certain things you have about leadership. Some of it you're born with. Some of you learn. And then some days you don't need to be a leader. You just need to sit there and listen. But the other thing is you got to make sure you have work-life balance. I think I learned that the hard way, but now I have it. Can't take it home. You got to learn to shut that phone down, because every call is not an emergency. Send it to voicemail sometime. That's the other thing I say. Make sure you maintain life-work balance and take care of your mental health, take care of your spiritual, and take care of your body. Because, your body's like a car. You don't change the oil, it's not going to start. You don't take care of your body, it's going to fall apart. So thanks again for this opportunity, and I look forward to meeting you in person sometime soon.
For sure. I am, like you said, from Prince George's County, not to be confused with Prince George County. I would love to connect William. I drive up and down the East Coast, so I definitely know Emporia. And next time I do, now I got a reason to stop. Yeah.
I'll be in PG County sometime this evening, though.
You said sometime this evening?
Yeah. I'll be up there this evening, yes.
Okay.
I'm in Fort Washington.
Wow. Yeah, small. We'll talk after this. It's such a small world. But thank you all. Once again, this has been the Jentry Podcast, and we have William Johnson, the city manager of Emporia, Virginia, over 3 decades worth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, and just a great person to learn from. And I appreciate you, William. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Have a good one, everybody.